Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to a long time ago, the #1 Star Wars podcast featuring two cousins with the surname Long. I'm willing to bet. I'm Adam Long, and I'm joined by cousin, friend, and all-round good guy Martin Long. How's it going?
I'm doing very much better now.
Oh,
Well, there's tears in my eyes. That was so good.
I haven't got one for next week yet, but
okay.
We'll figure that one out.
You've got a week to write it.
Yeah. Maybe somebody can help me with that. I don't know. Right, we're talking about episode 11 of Andor this week. It was called Daughter of Ferrix.
Yep.
You messaged me earlier saying, I don't know how we're going to fill out 30 minutes because not a lot really happened to us to an extent. I mean, quite a lot happened, but I don't know. It's a tricky one. A very enjoyable episode again. To use your quote, I suppose, putting the chess pieces back in play.
Yeah, for the next finale, isn't it?
Yeah. It didn't end on the cliffhanger that we were really expecting.
There was quite a few wrong predictions we made, I think, after watching that episode.
There really was. Yeah. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, I've kind of broken. Well, I said we were meant to fill 30 minutes, and then I started writing my notes, and then 45 minutes later, I realised what time it was. But I've split what happened into 4 main plot points. So if we start with Cassian and Melshi, throughout the episode, we followed their escape from Narkina 5, and they made their way to. Let's see if I can remember the name of the planet. Niamos, I think
Niamos
it was.
Niamos. Which is where he got arrested originally.
Yeah, exactly. So he went back for his money and his manifesto.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought at the time, why is he going back there? And then, they cleared that up pretty quickly. So,
as I think you quite rightly pointed out, the cleaners weren't particularly good because he's not been there for a few months, and they didn't check on top of the shower.
Yeah. Not great, but
yeah, no, there really wasn't much to it. There was the two of them hiding from the Empire.
Yeah.
The two of them coming across a quad jumper, which has obviously we've seen that in The Force Awakens, when Rey and Finn are trying to get off the planet. Jakku, thank you. And it gets blown up, so they end up choosing the Millennium Falcon instead.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm impressed that I actually remembered that it was called Jakku.
But it's getting to the point now, Adam, where there's so many planets in Star Wars where I just can't log it all. I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I
completely understand.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So they came across the natives to Narkina. What was it called again?
Narkina 5.
Narkina 5. So Narkinians, I think they were called. So a little bit of context for everyone. With a young child, I've got he's in bed most of the time, so I've got to watch a lot of these things with subtitles on. So, but it actually gives you a little bit more context, and you see things that you don't very often hear. There was like bits of conversation at one point in the episode. I couldn't hear them at all. I think it was a bit where they were talking about Bix or something, and it was just going on, and it was about to break into the next scene, but you could still hear what the conversation was. You could read what the conversation was, so it kind of makes it a bit more. I don't know, gives you a bit more context.
Oh, absolutely. There's two things I would add to that. Those two aliens that they tried to get the ship from. At some point I couldn't hear what they were saying, so
I didn't have a clue what was going on there. Yeah.
No, and I believe when Admiral Yularen came into the series, you wouldn't have known it was Admiral Yularen, and you still wouldn't know it was Admiral Yularen unless you'd watched the subtitles.
The subtitles, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Speaking of the natives of Narkina.
Narkina. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that scene for me was a little bit confusing. So they captured them in those funky nets,
Mm.
and then were they deciding whether they wanted to let them go whilst they were
They-
going on about the Empire and
yeah, well,
whatnot?
they were thinking of cashing them in, I think, for the reward money. I think they said
Mm.
something like 1,000 credits, dead or alive. And eventually, though, they decided that the Empire had done such bad stuff to their planet that
Mm.
they just gave Cassian and Melshi the
Elsie,
ship,
yeah,
um, which I thought was a bit convenient. I know,
yeah,
but
a bit weird that they would
yeah.
just do that. I thought maybe they gave them a lift. I don't know.
Mm. They could have done. They could have done. Did you think those aliens looked a little bit like Unkar Pluck did from The Force Awakens?
Mm, maybe a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. That's why
Yeah.
I jumped to mind at first, but then later on, as you saw them a bit closer, I was like, maybe not. But
Yeah.
they just reminded me a bit of him.
Just stocky dudes, like big
Yeah.
alien stocky things.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously once they'd escaped, you see them a bit later in the episode and they arrived on Niamos, where, as we already said, Melshi and Andor, they go to get his lockbox, and
Mm.
they made quite a big show of the fact that the manifesto was in there. So I think, as we predicted, that
Yeah.
will probably tie in next week, perhaps, to
Yeah.
him finally making that decision to join the rebellion.
And
Um,
another subtitles thing there was it actually said Nemec's manifesto
oh, right.
plays or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
And then obviously it finishes with the two of them splitting off. And Melshi, obviously, he's fully in for the cause now. He wants to go
Mm.
off and make sure the galaxy knows that what the Empire are
What
up
they're
to,
doing.
and exactly. And I'm sure Andor's quite close to being there, but I'm not sure he's 100% there yet.
Mm.
So
And with the
I,
news he's just received,
mm,
he's not
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So the second storyline I highlighted was the Luthen and Saw
Mm.
storyline, or
Tremendous, absolutely brilliant. I think
yeah, best part of
is
the episode. Yeah.
is worth saying. Yeah.
Mm.
Again, I think
Um,
it goes back to what we said last week about the A-list actors, if you like, really almost stealing the show,
Absolutely.
and I feel like they really did again. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this was a great scene, and a couple of interesting things I picked up from the scene was Saw's always been told to us, the audience, that he's a fanatic and he'll do anything. But even he was shocked that Luthen was willing to sacrifice. What was the guy's name? I've written it down somewhere.
Key,
Krieger.
Anton Key
Anton
Krieger.
Krieger. Yeah, Anton Krieger. He was shocked that he was actually willing to just let him get captured/killed by the Empire.
Yeah.
Um, Even though Sora said in the previous episode he didn't like him, but he
Yeah.
was still shocked that Luthen was willing to do that. And that goes to probably went to show me that Luthen is actually even more of a,
He's the most ruthless one there,
yeah,
I think.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe Saw learns from him a little bit here, because you did get the I don't know. I got the impression that Saw perhaps at this stage is, he's a big leader, and obviously he's done a lot already in the
Mm.
rebellion, or even back in the Clone Wars. But this might be the sort of thing that makes him who he is. The man we see in Rogue One. So
Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and you definitely saw a lot of his paranoia that you
Yeah.
saw in Rogue One, didn't you? Thinking that some of his own troops were um,
Absolutely.
informing on him to Luthen.
And I don't know if we knew the henchman guy, one of his henchmen's
Oh, two
names.
tubes.
Tubes. We
Yeah,
did
two
know.
tubes. Yeah.
Did we know that did we find out what's his name in Rogue One, or was that like after?
It was never, I don't think it was ever spoken in Rogue One, but it was on all of the merchandising. It was in the graphic novels, and all
Okay.
that. So it was quite widely known that was his name.
Yeah.
And the big white wampa looking alien that's always there, his name's Morvac or something like that, Movac. But if I find out what his actual name is,
Well,
and
you
we'll
can
flash it up
remember
on the
their
screen.
names.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've had longer to live with those names.
Hmm.
So yeah, there were some fantastic scenes when he was meeting Saw, and then of course as he's leaving the planet, we get
Oh, a great scene.
oh, brilliant. Um, Again, when his ship started doing all of the the changes that it was doing,
Mm.
was it just me, or did it remind you of perhaps a Bond car from a James Bond movie where it just
Now
looked
that you
like a
say it, yeah, maybe a
yeah
little bit.
yeah, it was kind of like it just
It's
because the
full of
Imperials,
gadgets.
yeah, the Imperials were just thinking it was just some sort of pirate ship, weren't they?
Mm.
And they were surprised that it could do anything at all. And then all of a sudden, all these tricks and were coming out, the
Yeah,
lasers, the whatever the things that were coming out the back to destroy their tractor beam. Yeah, it was
yeah.
yeah, excellent.
They were calling it a haulage vessel or something, weren't they?
I was at haulage vessel again. That was
Yeah,
another bit of dialogue I couldn't quite hear that well.
yeah.
So yeah, I
So
think I'll have to do subtitles next time.
yeah. But yeah, going back to that ship, it's got to be the best, most well-equipped shuttle in Star Wars,
Mm.
surely,
Oh,
in the
definitely.
galaxy. Is we've never seen anything like that, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm happy about that or not. I thought it was awesome, but then I thought, well, why aren't more ships equipped like that?
Yeah, I would guess that he's a very wealthy man,
Yeah,
Luthen, and I think that probably that ship is probably kitted out to the absolute max with
yeah.
everything you can possibly get. So that would be my
Well,
explanation for
clearly,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But the fact that we don't see that sort of stuff again in Star Wars tells me that, and I know our Dead and Alive game is just for characters, but I think if we call the ship a character, I'm not sure that's going to make it till the end of the series.
yeah. Going to see the same fate as the Razor Crest did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had this, this a good, great, well, the first space battle we've had in the series in 11 episodes, which much
Oh,
like
is
the
it
rest,
really?
yeah, I think so. I can't think of anything. Yeah, no, there hasn't been a space battle. I'm certain of it.
Mm.
And but even the space battle, it was in the same style of Andor. It was reserved and not too flashy.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was,
I don't know. He made it quite flashy with those fancy lasers at the end.
I suppose, I think the fact that they ruined that in the trailer and we knew that was happening, kind of probably lessened the impact of that for me. But yeah, I mean, it was a great little scene. I really enjoyed it, and it was great to see space. To be quite honest with you,
Yeah.
I really, I'd probably pick that out as my favorite moment in the episode.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd go with that. I
yeah,
think we've been bouncing around all these different planets, like you say.
mm,
It's
yeah,
quite good to see something a bit different.
yeah. And the Star Destroyer, well, it wasn't a Star Destroyer; it's some sort of communication
Mm.
slash spy ship. I think. Again, it's probably in the subtitles, but I can't remember what they said. But that was actually the original 1970s design for the Imperial Star Destroyer.
Ah, good
So
knowledge. Good
yeah, they
Easter
pulled
egg.
that they pulled that out. I think in Solo first. It appears in Solo in the background of on a screen, and then they pulled it out for this series. So
All right.
it's great to see they're still putting out those original trilogy designs for
Yeah.
modern day Star Wars. That's great.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Um, then the next area we followed was on Ferrix, and it was the death of Marva
Mm.
off
Didn't go out
screen,
with
which
didn't go out with the bang that you expected.
no, hold me a little bit disappointed, to be honest. I thought there was a great opportunity to her to go out with
Mm.
a sort of a bit of a bang, but
Especially the way they in the earlier episodes built up about I forget the bloke's name, Andor's sort of dad father figure.
oh yes, yeah. Well, it was his name he used in the prison, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I still can't remember that.
Flash it up on
It
screen.
was his name that they used in the heist.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, we're terrible.
But that's a fair few episodes ago now. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
mate,
So
it's easy to forget.
yeah,
Um,
it was real shocking that she just died off screen.
hmm,
But I think to be quite honest with you, this episode served the purpose of one thing, and it was basically to get every single character to Ferrix for the finale.
hmm,
So we're going to get Vel, we're going to get Mira, we're going to get Luthen, we're going to get Cassian, we're going to get Cyril. We're
that's
possibly
going
going
to
to get
be
the Sergeant Major, Scottish Sergeant Major guy
yeah,
from the first couple of episodes coming back, and they're all obviously going back to Ferrix for different and the same
yeah.
reasons.
That'll be the
Um,
showdown, sort of.
it will be because I have to admit, when we saw those set photos and they built that ginormous set for Ferrix, and if you think about screen time it's had
Mm,
so far, I
yeah,
was thinking, wow, they built all of that just for that. So this tells me that I think there could be some serious stuff going down, and that city might not look the same as it did at the beginning of the series by the end of the next episode. So I
yeah.
think that's what we're
That's
looking at.
that's your prediction.
I think, well, I mean, every prediction I've made so far for this finale is not going to happen. So I
Yeah,
think, but I
we've
think it's
we've been
quite
pretty bad.
obvious.
We've been pretty bad with our predictions this series.
I've been terrible. I've been absolutely terrible. But this one's got to be right because they've said it. Everybody's like, we're going there. I mean, Cyril even stole his mum's cash, didn't he? Didn't he? So he could get a shuttle back to Ferric.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that'll be interesting. What goes down there? So we're not going to see any big flashy space battles next season, next episode. I don't think.
No,
And then
possibly.
no, and then the final storyline was Mon Mothma.
Well, before you get into that, I just want to head back to Ferrix for a little while
Sorry,
because
yeah.
something that I've always wondered is why droids have emotions in Star Wars. Because it was B2 who was, shaken up and
Mm.
upset by Marva's death. And I just thought it's interesting that they give droids emotions.
Yeah, well, they
So
only seem to give the R2 units emotions, don't they? Because
C3PO has fear.
I suppose, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question, Adam. Any ideas? Put it in the comments below.
Yeah, because it just baffles me because they're droids at the end of the day. They
Yeah,
shouldn't really have emotions,
no.
but
But then I suppose the droids have always, it doesn't matter what film series, television show, whatever, the droids are always there, aren't they? The
mm,
secondary characters. And I think George Lucas's original idea for Star Wars was that the story should be told through the eyes of the droids. Um,
okay.
it was it's something he took from one of the samurai movies. Something Kingdom, I think it was. Like, oh god, I'm gonna lose all my Star Wars cred for not remembering that. So yeah, the droids have always been quite important, and for the most part, they managed to pull off the droids really well. And I think B4 is an excellent addition.
B2, B2.
B2, sorry, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Just this is a late recording, so he's probably
yeah,
tired. Everyone give him a break.
yeah. We've had lots of technical issues this evening. I can't tell you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so heading back to Coruscant then.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
were
Mon
going to talk
Mothma.
about the Mon Mothma storyline.
Yeah, I think they just shoehorned in loads of scenes of her daughter. You know, I don't suppose it's not a religion, but practicing the old ways of Chandrila. So they obviously have old traditions, and it's showing that her daughter follows those old traditions, whereas Mon Mothma, not so much. She's more of a modern member of that society, but her daughter is in some sort of group that still thinks that those ways are the ways to go ahead and forward. And I think they're doing that because they're going to use that as Mon Mothma's character's justification to let that deal happen, where the son of the gangster chap comes in and marries her daughter.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I think they would have found it difficult to justify that she would all of a sudden do that to her daughter just for the sake of herself not getting captured by the Empire. So again, I clumsily shoehorned in, maybe. I mean, I might be wrong, but that's what came across to me. Because even when her sister visited, she seemed really shocked that she was into all of that sort of stuff.
Now, that was the other thing. We assumed it was her sister based on the fact that her daughter's calling her auntie.
Mm.
But when she went to Luthen's Emporium of Easter eggs, she said that it was her cousin.
Oh,
Now,
you're
is
right.
she doing
did.
that to cover up, or is she genuinely a cousin?
That's a very good question.
I've got all the
now
questions,
you've
but we
said
don't
it.
have the answers.
No, I'm leaning towards cousin now, to be honest with you. Because if she was Mon Mothma's sister, she might be under a bit more scrutiny from the Empire, being a close family relative.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
That,
true.
but who knows?
Very
But yeah,
possible. Yeah,
good catch. I forgot all about that. Yeah.
yeah. And the store assistant was called Claire. I remembered that this time
Yeah,
because
she's great, isn't she?
all this series, I don't think we've known her name, or
No.
we've they've said her name, but we've always forgotten it because we appear to be terrible with names. So.
Yeah. I'm terrible at names in the real world, let alone in the fictional world. So,
And this series has brought so many characters as well.
oh, it's got to be a
Yeah,
record
I
number
think
of
so.
characters and planets as well. I mean, there's
But
been so many planets.
significant characters as well, aren't they?
Mm,
They're
mm.
all, pretty much every one of them's got a good amount of lines.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just an interesting thought.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's good. It's good to have lots of new stuff because one thing I think we've complained about in the past year is, oh, we're always back at Tatooine, or, we're always on the same ships, or we're always, visiting the same planets or seeing the same characters, and it's been quite refreshing, hasn't it? So yeah,
Yeah,
it's been good. It's been
yeah.
good. It's been good.
Is there anything else we need to mention on this episode then?
I think that's it really. I mean, as you said at the beginning, a lot happened, but a lot of it is just let's get it ready for next week because
Yeah,
I think we're gonna have a big one next week, and I don't think we'll be jumping around all over the place. I think we're going to be, as I said earlier, in on
mostly
Ferrix for
on
pretty much
Ferric.
most of the episode,
Yeah,
and I think there's going to be some serious stuff going down. And I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say that by the end of the episode, the empire of pretty much demolished that planet. I think there'll be nothing left of that city by the time that episode's finished.
well, it'll be an interesting one to see whether
Mm.
that's the case.
Mm.
Don't know. Were there any Easter eggs that you spotted in this episode then?
I've only watched it the once. Obviously we've been to Luthen's antique emporium many times, and it's all the same stuff. So I did not
Yeah,
notice anything that we haven't mentioned before. There was obviously the original concept design for that Star Destroyer. Apart from that, no, I don't think I
no,
spotted anything
we
or
we
heard
did
anything.
we did miss one last week, didn't we? In was it episode 10?
Oh yes,
Um, what was it?
it
Padme's
was
headdress.
Padme's headdress, yes, from episode 2, I think it is. Whether it's the same one or a similar one, I suppose it could just be considered a Naboo or a Nubian headdress.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, I'm sure there were plenty more, but as same as you, I kind of had a really busy day, and I knew we were doing this tonight,
yeah,
so I had to quickly watch it at lunchtime.
yeah,
And I didn't take it all in quite as much as I normally would have done. So, but I'm sure we can report back next week if we've missed anything.
yeah, yeah. That's good. Another good episode, and obviously, well, it wasn't quite as intense as the previous episode, but a very good episode nonetheless.
Yeah.
So we just got to see what's in store for the finale, I
That's
suppose.
right.
I
Well, we
haven't
shouldn't
got
be
any other
surprised.
predictions, so
No, no. Well, we shouldn't be surprised really because it's followed that structure all the way
it
through,
really
hasn't it?
has. Yeah,
The
yeah.
episode before the final episode of that arc is just the setup.
Mm.
So yeah, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm not going to predict anything because, like we said, we haven't got anything right this series, and I really just don't know what's going to happen. I just can't see anything coming. So it's been like that the whole way through, really.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, that will do for this week. I don't think you've got anything else to mention, have you?
Not this week. We've got lots coming up in the future to talk about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've loved Andor, but I'm quite looking forward to moving on to other things now because
Right.
we've got a backlog of things to talk about behind me.
Yeah, really, quite literally a backlog there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, that'll do for this week then. If you have any thoughts on what you think is going to happen in the finale that you want to share with us, leave them in the comments. We'd be interested to read them. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Bye.